Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Emily Su.
And I'm Raymond Yeung. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
Security chief says police ready to handle Sunday's Occupy Central rally should it escalate.
Hong Kong residents feared to be among dozens injured in Canadian bus crash.
Taiwanese actor Ko Chen-tong apologizes for taking drugs after Beijing police released him. Security Chief Lai Tong-kwok says the police are well prepared to handle any escalation of an Occupy Central rally outside the chief executive's office on Sunday.
His assurance came as pan-democratic lawmakers urged Beijing not to impose unreasonable limitations on the 2017 election for Hong Kong's top leader.
Beijing is expected to announce a conservative framework for political reform on Sunday. Led by lawmaker Kwok Ka-ki, members of the Civic Party marched from Western Police Station to the liaison office to demand a genuinely competitive chief executive election in 2017. Armed with a jumbo-sized ballot form, which included the names of Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying, Education Minister Eddie Ng, and Police Chief Andy Zhang, the protesters said voters should be able to choose candidates from all sides of the political spectrum. They warned Beijing not to disappoint Hong Kong people by imposing what they called unreasonable limitations on constitutional reform.
I urge the leaders of the Communist Party in Beijing to consider carefully the wish and the hope for real general election for chief executive in Hong Kong, in which we have waited for more than 17 years.
Their protest came 2 days before China's top legislature is expected to lay down a framework that will determine Hong Kong's political future. There have been indications that it will set a higher than expected threshold for chief executive hopefuls and cap the number of candidates at 2 or 3. Although opposition lawmakers are disappointed with the signals from Beijing, the ADPL's Frederick Fung said most of them will attend a seminar hosted by Basic Law Committee Chairman Li Fei on Monday to explain the final decision made by the National People's Congress Standing Committee. But they will also join Occupy Central's mass rally outside the chief executive's office on Sunday to denounce any plan that fails to meet international standards. Occupy leader Benny Tai described the event as the starting point of a long-term civil disobedience campaign, setting a stage for a showdown with Beijing. Security Chief Lai Tong-kwok said the police are prepared if Occupy leaders decide to go ahead as early as Sunday with their plan to blockade Central in a bid to force Beijing to change its stance.
The police will facilitate all peaceful assembly and expression of opinion, but the basic line is they cannot breach the law. If there is a breach in law, of course the police will take appropriate and prompt actions to handle the situation.
Lai added that the Commercial Crime Bureau received a complaint alleging that the personal information of those who took part in Occupy Central's unofficial referendum in June was leaked. Occupy leaders later issued a statement saying all users' information had been deleted and said the complaint was an attempt to discredit the plebiscite.
The ICAC raids on the homes of 2 democracy campaigners yesterday have continued to stir controversy over the timing.
In an unusual move, the anti-corruption body released a statement saying there was no political motive, but lawmaker Lee Cheuk-yen urged the public to make its own judgment. Contrasting views were expressed on the airwaves this morning over an ICAC probe into the millions of dollars donated to politicians and political parties. The debate came a day after the ICAC raided the homes of media tycoon Jimmy Lai, his top aide Mark Simon, and Labour Party leader Lee Cheuk-yen. Lee is one of 5 opposition lawmakers said to have received money from Lai, who's a staunch advocate for democracy. The anti-corruption body, which is usually tight-lipped about its operations, issued a statement late last night, stressing that the 3 men had not been arrested. Before the handover, we rarely reveal the identity of the subjects being investigated, as they should be protected, said Stephen Char, a former ICAC chief investigator. I think because Lee is a public figure, the ICAC needed to strike a balance. Char added they went straight to Lee for the relevant bank records to save time, as it could take much longer to obtain the documents from the bank. The former chief investigator said he does not think the probe is politically motivated, something which the ICAC itself has stressed. That's because the probe comes just days before Beijing reveals the framework for the city's political future. The signals from the capital suggest that it will be more conservative than expected, setting the stage for a showdown with Democrats. Li urged members of the public to judge for themselves whether the timing of the ICAC probe is coincidental or form of political persecution. He reiterated he has done nothing wrong, but admitted he could have better handled the $1.5 million he received from Lai. The lawmaker earlier said he kept a third of the donation from Lai in his personal bank account for 9 months while waiting for permission to start a recycling social enterprise run by his party. Alan Leung, another lawmaker who received money from Lai, called on ICAC Commissioner Simon Pei to allay public concerns.
There are, of course, doubts and suspicions about the ICAC creating white terror by the high-profile house searches of Mr. Lai and the Honourable Mr. Li. I hope the ICAC has the courage and has a heart big enough to understand that such queries are fully justified and reasonable in all the given circumstances.
The media tycoon used the website of his flagship newspaper, Apple Daily, to hit back at his critics, saying he knew there's a price to pay for taking a stand. The tycoon added the fact that the ICAC found nothing in his house is the best statement. Trading of shares in Lai's Next Media Group resumed today after being suspended yesterday. The Equal Opportunities Commission will not extend the deadline for a consultation on reviewing anti-discrimination laws, despite a possible conflict of interest.
But the group's chairman, Yeung, admits its credibility may have been damaged after one of his senior officials helped members of his church to make submissions to counter those from gay rights groups. ATV's Arthur Urquiola reports.
The head of the Equal Opportunities Commission kicked off the first ever international symposium held here to discuss the rights of the LGBTI community, lesbians and gays, as well as bisexual, transgender, and intersex people. The forum follows the launch last month of a consultation on outlawing discrimination on the grounds of marital and residency status. Gay rights groups support some of the proposals even though sexual orientation is not covered, as the issue is still being studied.
We hold great concern for the protection of equal rights of other vulnerable sectors, including the LGBTI persons, who are at risk of being marginalized and unfairly treated in our community. We strongly believe that it is our responsibility to speak out for justice on behalf of those who are vulnerable. It is also our responsibility to initiate public discussions and advance understanding to ensure that everyone can enjoy equal protection irrespective of factors such as sexual orientation and gender identity.
However, questions have been raised over a potential conflict of interest within the commission, as one of its top officials was accused of helping members of his church to submit views to counter those from gay rights activists. Hosea Chok, an acting director of operations, was relieved of his role in the law review after handing out sample letters at a church meeting.
Chow
said the incident has damaged the Commission's credibility and warned staff not to do anything to jeopardize its image. He said Chok was not responsible for any analysis during the consultation and was not involved in the Commission's study on sexual orientation. As such, there was no need to extend the deadline for the consultation, although the EOC has launched an internal investigation into the case. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
Dozens of tourists, including some said to be from Hong Kong, have been injured in a bus crash in Canada.
The tour bus was reported to be traveling well above the speed limit before the accident at a downhill stretch of highway in the province of British Columbia. What began as a happy journey in Canada turned into a nightmare. At least half a dozen tourists are fighting for their lives after being airlifted to hospital following a horrific bus crash. A coach carrying 55 tourists was returning from a 4-day trip to the Canadian Rocky Mountains when the vehicle flipped over on the Coquihalla Highway in British Columbia. Witnesses said the coach was traveling well over 130 kilometers per hour. The driver and all the tourists were injured. 6 of them were admitted to hospital in critical condition and 15 in serious condition.
Interior Health has called a code orange at 2 of our hospitals this afternoon as a result of a bus accident on the Coquihalla.
A Canadian travel agency confirmed that the group of Chinese, Malaysian and Asian tourists were heading for Vancouver, about 3 hours' drive away. It's believed some on board are from Hong Kong, but the immigration department here said it has not received requests for assistance.
Taiwanese movie star Ko Chen-tong has made a tearful apology after being released in Beijing, where he was detained for 2 weeks after admitting to smoking marijuana.
Ko, who vowed never to use drugs again, returned to Taiwan tonight where he could face criminal charges after undergoing drug tests. ATV's Alison Chan reports. A tearful Ko Chen-tong faced the cameras in Beijing today to apologize for smoking marijuana. I was wrong, very, very wrong, the 23-year-old Taiwanese film star admitted. Please do not do anything illegal like I did, he advised his fans and pledged to change his ways. His parents and manager, who were present, bowed along with him in a show of remorse. I'm sorry, because my son sets a really bad example as a public figure, his father said. The actor, who's also known as Kai Ko, was released from administrative detention this morning, 2 weeks after he was held for using marijuana in a Beijing foot massage parlor. Chaos broke out when Ko and his parents were confronted by the media when they arrived at the hotel. A reporter accused the actor of hitting him, but Ko's manager said the star was merely trying to get his father past the cameras and into a lift. Ko rose to fame after acting in the Taiwanese hit movie You Are the Apple of My Eye, which won him the Best New Actor title at the Golden Horse Awards in 2011. But his career may be doomed because he could face a criminal charge in Taiwan for using drugs. He's expected to go under drug tests on his return to Taipei, and he could be sent for rehabilitation. Ko, who will make another formal apology on home ground tomorrow, was detained along with his friend J.C. Chan, son of Hong Kong Kung Fu star Jackie Chan. The younger Chan's home in Beijing was raided by police during a crackdown on drugs. More than 100 grams of marijuana were seized from his apartment, and the 32-year-old could be charged with accommodating drug users or providing a shelter for others to abuse drugs. If found guilty, he could be jailed for up to 3 years. Beijing police have yet to announce any formal charges against Chan, who remains in detention. Alison Chan, ATV News. U.S. President Barack Obama has dismissed fears that Washington will go to war with Russia over the crisis in Ukraine.
NATO is holding an emergency meeting after again claiming that Moscow is invading Ukraine. ATV's Benno Rock reports.
Donetsk locals run for cover as the Ukrainian army pounds their neighborhoods with mortars in an attempt to quash a separatist rebellion. At least 15 civilians were killed in this attack, according to city officials. The crackdown on the rebels has forced hundreds of thousands of people to flee eastern Ukraine to Russia, where they're living in refugee camps. Rebel leader Alexander Zakharchenko said Kiev is carrying out a scorched earth policy, destroying gas, power and water supplies and the social infrastructure. He insisted the rebels will fight on until Ukrainian troops leave their territory. Over in Kiev, the government has introduced compulsory military service in a bid to regain a grip on the east. President Petro Poroshenko has once again accused Russia of invading the country, insisting columns of tanks, huge weapons supplies and Russian soldiers have crossed the border to rescue gangs of terrorists. However, his defense minister Valery Helety dismissed the idea that Russia is invading, insisting there's only the usual trickle of Russian fighters crossing the border to join the battle and no fully fledged offensive. Regardless, NATO has released some satellite photos it says prove the Russians are invading and accused Moscow of prolonging the crisis.
Russia's ultimate aim is to alleviate pressure on separatist fighters in order to freeze this conflict, which would result in further tragedy for the people of eastern Ukraine.
US President Barack Obama dismissed suggestions the West is preparing for war to stop Russia's perceived meddling.
What is happening is wrong, that there is a solution that allows Ukraine and Russia to live peacefully, but it is not in the cards for us to see a military confrontation between Russia and the United States in this region.
But over at the United Nations, the US ambassador hinted at something stronger than sanctions.
The most important question for us now is not what we should say to Russia. The most important question is what we should do to make Russia listen.
Russian Ambassador Vitaly Churkin hit back, saying Washington should stop interfering with the internal affairs of sovereign states and undermining regimes that it doesn't like. Ben O'Rourke, ATV News.
And still to come on ATV's main news tonight. Dream over for American teenager Catherine Ballas at US Open.
Hong Kong's underground musicians make a date with history.
Historical time. Find out Britain's top antiques enthusiast. To be one step closer to becoming an antiques master. Contestants are eager to show their talents. Now, the competition starts. Antiques Master, tonight at 8:30.
Elemental Evolution. The ATV 2014 Miss Asia pageant is about to start. Ladies, come and show the world your beauty.
The ATV 2014 Miss Asia pageant. Waiting for your participation. Come and join us now.
Elemental Evolution. ATV Miss Asia Pageant 2014 is now inviting applications. They can drive you nuts. From the most powerful roaring on Earth to the sexiest bodies you'll ever see. They're surely every man's dream. Drive it every Monday night at 8.
就快去旅行咯喎，執行李未啊？
執好啦。
衫褲執齊，仲有女女嘅玩具。
開會文件執齊晒啦。
咁你上網登記咗外遊提示服務未啊？
係喎。
Registration for the government's outbound travel information is a free service. Just enter your phone number and itinerary to receive outbound travel alert updates. If there's an emergency, the government will contact you and offer help.
September Sci-Fi Thriller.
Mayday, mayday, mayday.
Mr. President, we have a situation. What is it?
Tremble and shake.
To stop the madman's destructive plan, the nuclear submarine makes a shocking bid for world peace.
One of our submarines, the USS Montana, has been hijacked by terrorists.
It's the Florida.
Depth Charge, Monday night at 9.
Militants in Syria and Iraq have stepped up their offensive against government forces as they try to expand the areas under their control.
Scores of Syrian soldiers were killed after extremists captured an airbase, while another group seized more than 40 UN peacekeepers, after irregular reports.
UN officials are seeking the release of 43 peacekeepers detained by Muslim extremists in the Golan Heights. The soldiers from the Philippines and Fiji were taken by fighters from the Al-Nusra Front, which is battling government troops in southwest Syria. Another militant group, Islamic State, is trying to consolidate its position in northern Syria. Video posted online shows hundreds of captured Syrian soldiers forced to march across the desert on their way to an execution ground. The soldiers were rounded up after the militants seized an airbase near Raqqa. Islamic State has incurred the wrath of Washington after it beheaded U.S. journalist James Foley earlier this month in retaliation for American air raids on its fighters in Iraq. But the U.S. is reluctant to join forces with arch-enemy Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who is trying to stop Islamic State, also known as ISIL, from taking over more territory.
What we're seeing is the areas that ISIL is occupying are not controlled by Assad anyway. And frankly, Assad doesn't seem to have the capability or reach to get into those areas. So, I don't think there's a situation where we have to choose between Assad or the kinds of people who carry on the incredible violence that we've been seeing there.
That violence was seen in another Islamic State video, showing its fighters preparing to execute a Kurd in the northern Iraqi city of Mosul. The footage was a warning to Kurds to cut off ties with the U.S. Kurdish troops have managed to regain some areas seized by the militants before the U.S. entered the conflict with airstrikes against Islamic State to stop it from killing Iraqi Christians and Yazidis. Arthur Ricchiola, ATV News.
Time now for sports with Bo Leung.
And a U.S. teenager reached the end of the rainbow.
Indeed, it's game over for Catherine Bellis. The 15-year-old made history in the first round of the U.S. Open, but crashed to reality in the second. Teenage sensation Catherine Bellis made her mark at the US Open by becoming the youngest female player to win a match in the tournament since 1996. But the 15-year-old American couldn't match her opening round performance and lost to Serena Diaz of Kazakhstan in 3 sets.
2-6 to 1, 6-3.
Top seed Serena Williams had no problems against fellow American Vania King. Chasing her third US Open title, Williams took only 56 minutes to win in straight sets. In the men's event, world #1 Novak Djokovic cruised past Frenchman Paul-Henri Mathieu 6-1, 6-3, 6-love. It was also a clinical finish for 8th seed Andy Murray. The Briton eased into the third round with a straight sets victory over Germany's Matthias Bachinger. Milos Raonic kept Canada's hopes of a first Grand Slam win alive by beating Peter Goichi in 4 sets. Australian Nick Kyrgios also advanced to the next round after defeating Italian Andre Seppi. In athletics, Jamaica has added more wins in the Diamond League, and there was a dramatic finish for a pair of sprinters. Usain Bolt was missing from the Diamond League meeting in Zurich, but that didn't worry Jamaica's sprint squad. In the men's 100 metres, Commonwealth champion Kimar Bailey-Cole crossed the line first in 9.97 seconds. In the women's event, Jamaica's former 200 metres Olympic champion Veronica Campbell-Brown won in a photo finish after she and Ivorian Muriel Ahura both finished in 11.04 seconds. There was drama in the women's 1,500 metres after American pair Jennifer Simpson and Shannon Robury ran into each other and tumbled over the finish line. Simpson clinched the gold in 1 minute 59.92 seconds, with Robury second by the narrowest of margins. World record holder and Olympic gold medalist David Rudisha could only finish third in the 800 metres. Botswana's Nigel Amos won that event in 1 minute 43.77 seconds. World champion Lawshawn Merritt pushed himself in the final sprint to take the men's 400 metres crown. In the 400 metres hurdle, South Africa's Commonwealth champion Cornel Fredericks powered to victory in 48.25 seconds. And American Olympic winner Christian Taylor snatched the triple jump with his final leap of 17.51 metres.
Hong Kong's underground music scene received a boost over the past month with a festival at a youth hostel in Shek Kip Mei.
It's the first of its kind, using a historic public housing block to solve the shortage of performing space and promote culture at the same time. ATV intern Lockie Wong reports.
Over the past month, Hong Kong's underground musicians have been gathering every Friday and Saturday for the first music festival held at Meiho House in Shek Kip Mei. Nothing seems special about this place until you dig a bit deeper into its history. It's the last of the so-called Mark II public housing buildings, dating back to the 1950s, and was part of an estate built to resettle thousands left homeless by a devastating fire. It's been preserved and given a new lease of life as a youth hostel. For this event, the building hosts a cultural and music show with organizers utilizing its courtyard in a throwback to the 1970s.
The back courtyard was the playground at that time. So having this playground, having that merry-go-around items at the back courtyard, actually we want to bring in that sort of atmosphere to the concert. At the same time, we also provide a space for them to perform, as we know that Hong Kong is a lack of open space for cultural activities.
That's a common problem for performers these days.
I think it's hard to find a good place that the audience can sit well and sit comfortably and with good sound quality. It's quite hard to find a place like this.
Jie and her younger sister, Jie Tin-Lei, say the problem of suitable space is hampering artistic development.
Not bright. We can see the future. We can see the future.
That's reflected by the fact that although the show has been warmly received, it's not clear it can be held again next year. Mayo House is a great example of how the old meets the new. Hong Kong's limited performing space can restrict the development of local art. But creative ways to incorporate past culture with current music is a start to remedy the problem. Lucky Wong, ATV News.
A look at the weather before we go. It was mainly fine and very hot today. Temperatures range from 27.5 to 34.1 degrees, while the relative humidity was between 57 and 88%. Winds were moderate coming in from the east. Let's check on the ultraviolet reading. The maximum recorded for the day was 12. Tomorrow's UV index will be around 12 as well. Now for a look at the weather in the region. A subtropical ridge of high pressure brought generally fine weather to the coast of southeast China. And now the satellite images. It is mainly fine over most areas of southern China, but there were showers in the northern part of the South China Sea. Here's what we can expect over the next few days. More fine and very hot weather tomorrow. Temperatures will range from 28 to 33 degrees. Sunny periods with a few showers early next week. Here are the latest pollution readings under the Air Quality Health Index. General stations are at 2 to 3, meaning the health risk is low. Roadside levels are at 4 and the health risk is moderate. Finally, here's the weather around the world.
That's our main news for Friday night. We'll have an update in 1 hour. I'm Raymond Yeung.
I'm Bo Leung.
And I'm Emily Sue. Thank you for watching ATV and have a great weekend. Good night.
Good night.
Coming up, a window on. World September, completely new vision. 6 types of programs to take your fancy. Thrilling science fiction spectaculars. More information, more wonderful life.
Very good, gives you a massage, it's a relaxing room.
Popular worldwide TV series.
Aiden, baby, can we talk? There's no time.
All embracing documentaries.
And I'm creating a new identity.
Relaxing weekend.
Oh, I shouldn't be cheering.
Intense horse racing. Prepare to be overwhelmed by the extraordinary September. All about documentary. Challenging the great summits of the world. Ascending the formidable granite wall of Yosemite, Half Dome of USA. Climbing up Austria's highest peak, Großglockner. Finding the great inspiration of life on the extraordinary journey. The Great Summits 2, tonight at 10.
Use your time wisely. Make every hour of every day count. Discover the real meaning of life on Hour of Power, every Sunday morning at 9.
Memories of the century. Princess Diana's death left the crowds heartbroken.
She was such an extraordinary woman that people find it very difficult to accept that she could have died such an ordinary death.
But also numerous rumours spreading like wildfire throughout the whole world.
You know, the fact that, it took the ambulance 2 hours to get to the hospital when it was only 10 minutes away. It's just too much going on.
Were these rumours grounded in fact or just conjecture? The Diana Conspiracy, Sunday night at 9.